When it comes to expert soccer analysts in the United States, one of the best is Craig Burley. The Scot, who moved to the US 5 years ago to work for ESPN, calls it the way he sees it. Love him or hate him, he's must-see television and always has an interesting take on the topics that matter in this game. Kartik and I had a chance to sit down with Craig to get more insight into the work he does. Here's our interview with Craig Burley that was recorded in a hotel in downtown Miami.
So Craig Burley's with us. Craig, the ESPN FC show during the World Cup was lightning in a bottle. It was indispensable for some of us like myself who value some sort of critical analysis in their commentary. You're working with Robbo, you're working with Macca, you've got Stevie Nicol, Alejandro Moreno, the usual cast of characters, Shaka coming through the...
All the journalists.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a variety of journalists coming on as well. So,
but it seemed like you and Robbo played off each other well. That was a fun dynamic.
Yeah, I try and play off most people. You probably have noticed that. But I've known Stuart for quite a while. I've known Macca for quite a while because we were chatting about this earlier. We worked together at Setanta. We played against each other. Macca scored that fabulous equaliser in a UEFA Cup game for Liverpool at Celtic Park. I think back in '97, so I still remind him of that. But Stuart's from a kind of slightly different era, he's slightly older, not much, but he's from a different era. But good broadcaster, good commentator, I think a well-rounded guy. And one of the things, Kartik, about the show is and the way I work in TV, and maybe I'll get heated, and maybe things will get animated, but for me, they never get personal. And I think when you let it become personal, an argument or a debate, then you've got a problem. And I don't really think any of the guys let a disagreement, even though it may sound and look. I mean, we see it on Twitter. People will say, "How have you guys made up yet?" I'm like, we've never fallen out. Have you and Marcotti made up? Have you and Dan made up? I've never fallen out with these guys. I've known Marcotti 20 years, and
he's a Chelsea fan, so he should remember you.
Yeah, I first met him in a bar in Glasgow at some hotel, and Gab and I have different opinions on lots of things, but we're not falling out over an opinion.
This World Cup was interesting on ESPN FC because you cover European football during the course of the year, European club football. Yep. You watch a lot of football. That helped inform your analysis of the tournament. It seemed like you and Robbo, Macca, Shaka, etc. were more comfortable analyzing the tournament because you'd seen most of these players during the course of their club seasons, whereas other networks that were covering this competition maybe did not have that benefit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we didn't have the rights to it, but we made the best of what we had. Clearly it was disconcerting for some that the US weren't there.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But from our perspective, I mean, obviously it's difficult when you're covering Iran and teams like that because you don't see a lot of these players. But in general, we're aware of a big bulk of the players. You're watching the games, obviously 3 games a day coming in, and you're able to get in. I really found, even though having covered World Cups, 2010 for ITV Sport with John Champion, we commentated in a lot of games. 2014 with ESPN, although I wasn't a big part of what they were doing back then, but I really found this World Cup was easy to get into, and I think that makes a difference.
It's a better World Cup to begin with.
Yeah, so a good World Cup makes the analysis, or it makes your job easier because you're sort of bubbly and you go there and think, right, we've got something to talk about again, rather than we've got to fit. Otherwise, the mindset is we're filling time. We never felt during this World Cup that we were filling time. We always felt there was a story from from the Italians not qualifying to the US not qualifying to Lopetegui being sacked just before the tournament. I thought, this is great. It's great. It's not great for Spain, but it's great drama for people like us.
Yeah, in fact, those 2 or 3 days leading up to the tournament, Dan Thomas said, well, we want to preview the tournament, we want to preview the opening tournament, but we have Sid Lowe, we have to talk to Lopetegui, and you're spending 15 minutes of the half an hour talking about that.
Yeah, and it just was an interesting story. I mean, we always laugh. We've got very good journalists, but sometimes we get them on, and I'll say, why the hell have we got these journalists on again? Start moaning at them, and he's talking too long, and all this kind of thing. But we have Raf covers Germany, Julian France, and You know, Paolo Bandini comes on, Sid Lowe comes on from Spain, Gab's on covering a host of different topics, usually try to squeeze in financial fair play, and then usually saying, I know Craig hates this, but I'm going to mention it anyway. And so we have a variety of people to, hopefully, that Steve Palese, our boss, can sort of call upon, which is quite handy for us, having these glow points around about. So yeah, that got us off to a good start, and then the football just took over with day after day of storylines.
Daily prep for the show, not just during the World Cup, but during the course of the European club season. What's it like? Because you don't work the Sunday show, but you work the rest of the week for the most part, and you have a different set of. You have different commentators, different. And then Dan Thomas most days, but some days you have Seb, some days you have Adrian Healy.
Yeah, I like Seb and Herc, but you know, Seb, they've just started in this job, and it's a big learning curve. And but the two of them are so easy to wind up.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I think CONCACAF or Mexico or the US, and then off they go. So I don't think they've worked out that we do it intentionally now. just
Shaka winds them up too.
Yeah, I tell you what, now there is a laid back man. You hardly see. When you see the big man Shaka angry, you know, like, you know, the finger was pointing at Gab the other week. But in terms of the show, I might be doing Sundays now because of our switch to ESPN Plus. So our probably not. Steve Palese is great with me. He generally gives me the option. So he's very flexible with me. The Sunday show might change because it's recorded now at what I would call a normal time. So boys probably record that at 4 or 5 o'clock now on a Sunday, where it used to be 11 o'clock, 11 or 12. And the reason for that was because of all the highlights coming in. And I won't lie to you, that's the reason I didn't do it. It was two reasons. Was one, it completely stuffs your day, because, you know, I watch golf on a Sunday and I have a beer. You spend time with your family or you do whatever. And then the show itself was very highlights driven on a Sunday night. Highlights from Mexico, highlights from the MLS, highlights from here. And that plays the ice, and I said, you know, we're reading off a sheet here. I don't. So that's why I didn't do the Sundays. I never heard from that. And the boys did not want me on a Sunday. If I used to come in and say to them, I'm thinking about doing Sundays this week, and they'd be like, no, because I would just moan. I would just moan for like an hour, saying, oh, why are we doing this rubbish from this league, and why are we doing this? And so they just didn't have me on.
One question I have is in terms of like moving to ESPN Plus, has it changed the format of the show at all, or kind of do you have more time to discuss topics, or are you still kind of keeping it tight?
That's a good one. It's not changed the format per se. What it has changed, we didn't have ad breaks, or I don't think we have ad breaks at the moment. We might do. Obviously, there's no at the moment when you go to Plus, there's no selling value until they can work everything out, which will be a long time. We're able to go longer for the US version, which obviously goes on Plus. We're able to go. I think Steve Palese wants to keep it between 20, 25 and 35 minutes. But we do have an ability to have, like, if we have a really segment that's going really long, we can just keep it going. But we then would have to redo that, and I think we have to redo it anyway for our international audiences, which still have ad breaks and still have an A segment, a B segment, a C segment, and a D segment for Australia, for India, for China, for Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, there's about 50 countries that were Plus, or the UK as well. Sure. So we have to fragment that show, more structured. But the Plus one has got a little bit more leeway in how long you can go. I mean,
there's some shows you've done 45 minutes. I've seen it pops up. It varies 28 to 48.5.
Yeah, and during the World Cup we were going out live at 5 o'clock, as you know, on ESPN2 as well. And then that show was also simulcast. The exact same show went out in UK, BT Sport at 10 p.m. British time.
So at the same time.
So that show went to the US and the UK live during the World Cup, but then we had to redo everything for all the other networks around the world, because whatever we put on Plus, we're not allowed to put on ESPN2. So we for some reason Plus is a subscription, because it's a subscription service. That show, I don't believe, could then go on ESPN2.
That's why the shows were different. That I didn't realize.
Well, because that's another thing I used to moan about. I used to say, why the hell are we doing 2 shows?
Yeah.
And because we were doing 3 shows and 4 shows by the time we put all the other continents in, and after I would finish moaning, somebody told me it's because contractually we can't use the Plus show on the main network.
Sure.
I think it's because people are paying for it.
Right, exactly.
So it has to be different.
Have you enjoyed calling these ICC games through the years?
I've loved doing the game because I don't get out that often now. And as you know from my broadcasting before, I was at all the games in England, Old Trafford and travelling around. So when I first moved to the US, I kind of missed that a little bit. I don't tend to miss it now. But I enjoy coming to these games. It's 2 or 3 years now where I've travelled around last year I was with Derek down in Houston for the Manchester Derby. Then I was in Santa Clara with John, Maryland with John. The year before we were in the big house doing Real Madrid Chelsea. It was 100,000 there. This will be my first game because I actually took 2 weeks off after the World Cup, and then I had to change my holidays about, so I initially took a break, so I wasn't available for any of these games. So my first game will be, I'll only be doing about 3 games this year, 1 on site and 2 from the broadcast booth back in Bristol.
What's been your reaction? You came to this country now 5 years. You've been here 5 years,
yeah.
And you've seen.
And I'm just trying to get my green card.
Oh wow.
Yes, we're trying. My wife keeps pointing it out to me. It's taking too long. So we're in the process. It's a slow process.
Yeah.
So it's
a quicker process if you're an active player. You'd have your green card already. Yeah, if you were playing.
Oh my God! I'd tell my wife that. She'd be saying, "When am I getting this bloody green card?" So I'm trying. So for any US pundits that think they're trying to get rid of me in the next 6 months, maybe the Donald will kick me out. I don't know, but I'm still going to be upsetting you American soccer followers for a little while yet. So yeah, it's been 5. I talk too much, but it's been 5 great years. I always agree with. I don't get involved in politics because I don't have a status here to vote. So it's not. But as you know, you can have an opinion, a difference of opinion on US men's national team or MLS or anything. It doesn't mean you don't enjoy living in the country.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I love the lifestyle here, and that's one of the reasons we made a big decision to come.
What's your sense post World Cup crash out for the U.S. World Cup qualifying crash out about the attitudes and the conversations we're having? Do you feel your opinions are being received better, or is it the same?
It's probably the same. And I don't. Kartik, I've got no interest whether anybody listens to my opinion or not. I'm paid to do my job. I'm never going to change. I've been doing it this way. And what if you watched me doing the Euros 2 years ago or studio work back in England? I won't completely change, but I'll change the way I do the job for doing a studio with Bauer and Mike Tirico for a Spain-France game, and it's different from doing a magazine show that's 7 days a week because it needs energy. Right. The live games should take care of themselves, where you can be opinionated and you can analyse it, but you don't have to be as argumentative or as debating, because there is an event going on. Yeah. The magazine shows need energy because you haven't got, either you've got no highlights, you've certainly not got a live event to go around it, and you're pummeling it out 7 days a week. You can't have bland people doing that all the time. You've got to have energy, and so the dynamic changes from doing that kind of event to doing what I do daily. Whether the American guys in particular or anybody's listening, that's not for me to say. That's for them to cover it in the way they want to do it. I don't particularly enjoy the sort of pom-pom rah-rah style. It's not my style, but if that's and they're very passionate about their national team, and I understand that. But listen, they're passionate in Scotland about the national team. It just so happens we're both pretty hopeless at the same time. And also, you find this with leagues that are having it and countries that are having. In Scotland at the moment, there's a kind of fixed bayonet style of, and it happened last week. A couple of journalists criticised the Scottish Premiership for a player leaving to go to a club that's owned by Gary Neville, Salford City, leaving the top, one of the top in Scotland to go. Adam Rooney. And a couple of journalists wrote, and I didn't read it. I just saw the headlines wrote about a disaster for Scottish football because leaving, and I can understand that. But it was just about money for the lad, and the money's not there in Scottish football. But the bayonets come out from the Scottish journalist and blah blah blah, and it's kind of like that with Major League Soccer in a way. And it's like there's that kind of inferiority complex, and the bayonets come out very quickly, and I think that for me, from the outside, that is something both Major League Soccer and the US national teams and those that follow, they have to get over that quickly. I think, because people are not doing it just for the sake of doing it. They're doing it, if it's you guys or us or whoever, they're doing it because they've got something to critique.
Yeah, I'd say there's a sense of paranoia and insecurity that seeps into all the analysis.
And all of a sudden it's you're just go back to Europe and go and all that. And that could come from people in my business. It could come from somebody on Twitter that I've never met. It could come from people who, a journalist who they just say, you bloody Scots and Brits come over here and think you can do that. It's not.
What about Twitter though? Because like now in this day and age, you're very active on Twitter, but you're hearing a whole bunch of feedback from viewers and listeners. Yeah. But prior to social media, when you were
I'm not as active as some on Twitter.
Okay.
But I'm
you're on there.
Yeah, I'm on there.
But as a player though, you weren't getting that feedback loop. You weren't getting that criticism. Unless you were playing, I guess the spectators. Yes. But now you're getting the kind of one-on-one.
I know.
Coming at you.
Well, I don't mind. As you know, I'm quite thick-skinned, and you give it out, you take. I find Twitter quite funny and amusing. I don't use Twitter as a debating tool because I'll be honest with you, I just can't be bothered. If I'm having a debate with somebody, I'd like to do it here.
Yeah.
I don't get time to start typing out, and I've got big fat thumbs, and people, criticise me for a spelling mistake or a grammatical error, and I'm like, I can't be bothered with that. So I use it as an information tool, which I think is great. And I use it for a bit of sarcasm sometimes when people are giving you a little stick. But I can't imagine, from a player's perspective now, and I know that's what you were talking about, is that, from my experience, how, I've had my own supporters hanging over the area by the tunnel shouting, "I hope you die," because I made a mistake in the game once, and this, the week before, and so we know the abuse that players can take during the period they're at a ground, pre-game, post-game, during the game, and to open yourself up to that, which is what a lot of them are doing now.
Right.
I don't know how much they read it, but I can imagine, say, if a Premier League player or an MLS player or an internet or whoever.
Raheem Sterling is probably a good example of somebody who's.
If somebody has a bad game or has been in the news, if they go home on a Saturday night and they open up the Twitter feed, they've either had too many beers or they're a fool. Because that could. Because everybody's different. I can laugh it off. I don't. I can laugh off pretty much anything, but some people can't. And that can eat away. That might eat away at a player, and you could be the best player. I always say you can be the best talented player around, but if you have no confidence, you're not going to see that talent. And Twitter could only destroy a player's talent if he's insecure about that.
You had Chelsea teammates like Steve Clark, Zola, Gullit, Vialli. They all went on to be managers. There's an exclamation mark around Ruud Gullit when you say that. Yeah, but I'll get to that. And Dennis Wise.
Not because he dropped me in the 1997 FA Cup final, but he had these. Great aura about the game.
Yeah, and Dennis Wise also, a bunch, and they'll all come to mind. I think
the answer's no.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. So you chose commentary instead of following the footsteps of all your teammates. Mark.
Well, some of them, Mark Hughes, and I never thought Mark would go. I never thought Mark would go into management. Clarkie's the most miserable man around. I'm not how he went into management. I saw him with his manager. He's at Kilmarnock now in Scotland, and I saw him with his manager of the month at the end of last season, and I'm sure I saw him smile as he was holding his trophy. Wisey did it for a little while. Yeah, there's lots of the guys. Ruud went to Newcastle and took Clarkie with him. Probably because Clarkie was his only friend left at Chelsea at the time. So Clarkie went to Newcastle with Ruud, and it didn't go very well there. For me, and I was explaining this to Christopher before we started this, is that I've always had a love of radio and TV broadcasting. Not from I was like 15, 17 years old, but from my mid-20s when I got an opportunity to go and do some radio in London when I was playing at Chelsea, to go in and doing Sky TV and the BBC, and then I just wanted, it's something I wanted to do. I wanted to go into broadcasting, and I was fortunate enough by putting myself out there when I was playing that I got an opportunity. As soon as I finished playing, the phone rang at the house one day, and bang, I finished in May as a player, and I started in July pre-season as a broadcaster at Setanta Sports, and I just went from there. And it was a big learning curve because, back in England, we have the open talk back, and I remember the earpiece going in my ear very first time, and it was open talk back to our producer and PAs, and the guy that got me started in this business, Colin Davison, ex-Sky Sports, now working out at BN in Doha. He was kind of old school with his talk back, so there was a lot of shouting, lots of people getting told off for like 4 hours while you're trying to do a programme, and it was a big learning curve, and I just learned so much in those early years, how the graphics worked, how the EVS for the replays, working with the match director if I'm doing a commentary, calling up angles, working with Grant Phillips, who I think he was at Sky with Grant Phillips, who I think is one if not the best match directors around. So working with a lot of good people, just learning a lot, and I get frustrated now, and that's another thing I was talking about the guys that just turn up and think they can put a headset on and it's just about talking are so wrong. John, as you know, you've been talking to my friend and colleague John Champion. John and I, when we were working, I've worked with lots of them, Crocker and Derek Ray and Bauer and Peter Drury, and all these are great guys, but John and I, when we were working together, had absolutely ingrained in us that less was more. When we were doing a commentary, less is more, and I've always tried to take that into a TV commentary, not a radio. Obviously, if I'm working for BBC 5 Live on a Wednesday, it's a different commentary to working then on a TV on a Saturday. It's a complete different skill set, but I've always loved this business. I've never always loved what surrounds it. Well, I've always loved the business.
That was one of the things that Rebecca Lowe talked about, was the adjustment from UK television and the talk back, and just the way things are different to US television. Was that a big transformation for you too? Was it a challenge adjusting to ESPN versus Setanta in the UK?
A little bit, Christopher. And I mean, I was writing. The other thing I was doing back in the UK, I was writing columns for. I spent about 7 years at the Sunday Times, and my columns were ghostwritten, and then I was writing the columns at the end for the News of the World and the Sunday Mail, and that was another learning curve. Sitting on a Friday banging my head, you guys know as well as I do, sitting banging my head on a laptop thinking I've got nothing, what am I going to do? And so that was great, but moving over here, Christopher, the talkback here is keyed, so for those people that don't understand and that are listening to this, they can only hear the people in the control room is when they key to you, when they press the key. In England, if you wish, and most people don't do it, but in England we'll go on open talkback, which you can hear all the counts, you can hear them talking to the graphics truck, you can hear them rollicking the people for the replays and all that,
ordering a pizza,
everything you can hear. I've heard people been sent home, I've heard people I've heard people almost been sacked, and we're still talking about live event, we're still doing the show while this is going on in our ear. And people will say, well, why do you do that? And I'll say, well, the presenter has open talkback, and if I'm the main guest and I don't have it, and the guy who's coming in for the one-off doesn't have it, the presenter's on his own. If there's problems technically behind the scenes on a 3.5, 4 hour broadcast, and there always is, as you know, then he has to soak all that up on his own. If I'm hearing there's problems, I can delve in, take over and start talking with the guest while he gets information to help him out. And that's the difference. Here, it's keyed. And the big difference I found when I came here is that I wasn't actually hearing anything. So I'm talking to Dan Thomas and Steve Nicol, and I'm thinking, this is weird. I've normally got people shouting in my ear. 10, 9, 8, 7, take us to the break, all this sort of, and I can't hear anything. And I actually found that, having done from 2:04 to 2:13 when I came here, so nearly a decade of my head spinning with stuff in my ears, I went to silence, just to the odd rap,
Right.
You know, just for the odd rap. And I found that weird. And if I was to go back to the UK, I think I would find it. I would take me a little bit of time to go back into to that way again, because I became accustomed to it.
Right.
Almost, you just sort of filter it out, and what's for you is for you, and what's not for you, you sort of filter out.
When you did UK television, whether it was in the studio, whether it was a co-com, how stressful was it? I mean, was it times where it was extremely stressful, and you're trying to take the weight on his shoulders, and whatever is happening in the studio, whether whatever's happening in the game itself, either or, were there stressful moments?
When I first started doing it was very stressful, because I was understanding all the talkback. In the last, I don't know, 7 years, I never really got stressed. We had a lot of. I tell you, one of the times I did get stressed is when, and I don't know if you ever saw this over here, at ESPN UK Premier League studios in the end, we were using this sort of virtual reality machine.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it was called Arena. I think it was.
Yeah, and it was like people could move around, and then we could then. The director Dickie Day, who actually came over here to work at NBC for a short while on their Premier League coverage, he was our studio director. He's gone back now. He's been back a couple of years. He was a super director, because he was studio director, because he was calm. He would talk a lot to me, but he was calm. But damn, this bloody machine would more often than not break down just as we were going live.
Right. And
so race stubs would be thrown to me, and I would have it all sorted from a couple of hours before, all the analysis we were doing. And as Ray would throw, Dickie would be in my ear saying, "Craig, it's not working." And I'm stood there with John Barnes or whoever, and I'm thinking, "Oh my God, I've got to fill here again." And so I would say if that happened to me in the first couple of years, Christopher, it would have been a problem.
Sure.
But luckily I had a lot of experience under my belt that it wasn't such a problem. But those are kind of stressful things. But in general, no, just doing a game, no, I knew I was working with John or Ian Crocker or whoever it was. I knew I was working with a good match director. I knew we had good people. And when you got good people, you can filter out the inevitable mistakes, from me and everybody else. People make mistakes, but we can all get on better and make the whole thing look better for people at home with the mistakes if you've got good people. So that's less stressful.
Sure.
Working with good people is always, it's like playing with good players.
Yeah.
Playing with good players is less stressful than playing with poor players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to do both. And when I dropped down a little bit at the end of my career, just for a couple of months, that was stressful. Because you go in the changing rooms, and I spent a little while at Walsall just for a couple of months. I don't know why I did it, but I went down to help Colin Lee out, the then manager, and I went in the dressing room, and I saw guys in their 20s with layers of fat, and I'm thinking, I've been with Viale and Zola. I've seen these guys in the gym 2 hours before training, right? They've done it all. And I'm at Walsall, and they were in the Championship at the time, and I'm looking at guys, and they've got body fat that it's embarrassing. And I'm thinking, well, there lies, it's not just a talent thing, but there lies the difference.
Yeah.
Working with poorer people is more stressful than working with good quality people who are willing to help you.
My final question is, what's your favorite golf course that you've discovered since coming to the States?
Don't talk to Steve Nicol about this, because we've been playing a golf course for a long time, and it's not in very good shape at the moment. And I've left last week to finally join a local golf course of mine. It's private, but it's not inexpensive, but it's not as expensive as some in the district. But he's refused to come. At the moment, and we're only a week deep, he's refusing to come because he won't spend the money. So he's left me on my own.
Or is he loyal to that course?
Well, the course might be shocking. He's loyal to his wallet. He's loyal to his bank account, and it's not. So I'm trying to persuade him to come, but there's so many, I don't know, so many great courses here in the US. I'd love to travel a bit more, but then to play a lot of these courses. But one of the reasons I came here was family. I was travelling a lot in England, working for PLP, working for ESPN, working for 5 Live. I was probably getting 1 day off a week because, I was Saturday ESPN UK, Sunday I would be on a commentary that you guys would get over here with Peter Drury or John Champion. On Monday I was doing Premier League productions with Mark Pugatch, looking back at the weekend. Friday I was doing Premier League productions, usually with James Richardson or John Dykes, and a Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday I would get a phone call from BBC 5 Live, and because of years ago those guys have been so good to me at BBC, I didn't want to let them down. So I'd invariably do a game for them midweek. Now that game could have been in Spain, it could have been a Champions League game, so the whole thing became, with 3 kids, and I was never at home basically, so part of the thing here at ESPN was I wouldn't really travel much, and I was just doing my job here, so I don't travel and see this great country as much as I would like, and play golf as much as I would like, but that was the whole reason. Even my wife likes Connecticut winters.
Wow.
Yes, she loves the seasons.
Right.
She loves the...
Your wife is Scottish.
She's Scottish. We were at school together. I don't know how I've put up with her that long, or she done. She put up with me, but we were at school together back in Ayrshire in Scotland, and we made a big decision to move here. We left our oldest lad back in the UK because of visas and stuff. He couldn't work, and so that was difficult. But our youngest 2 came with us. But she just loves the seasons here. The winter's long, as you know, but the spring is great. The summers are fantastic. The fall is beautiful, and she goes out on the trails and bikes and does all that. So I've said to her about moving to Florida and stuff, but she's like, oh, I love the seasons. And so yeah, no complaints. I'm sure a lot of people have got lots of complaints about me, but what you see is what you get, and it's been a really enjoyable 5 years.
Last question for me, looking ahead, I mean, it's going to be here before you know it, the UEFA Nations League.
Oh yeah.
So some big matches coming up in September, October, etc. No,
Don't ask me how to explain it.
don't worry about that. What's your understanding in terms of the level of what we can expect? I mean, do you have any thoughts in terms of, is the playing level going to be as competitive as some of the major tournaments, or is it...
No. Oh, absolutely not. But there's I mean, and I think Ian Dart was tweeting out about this during the international football is not dead. Mm-hmm. The World Cup has shown this, and he's absolutely right. But there is no doubt we've had a period of a lot of tedious friendlies. Yeah. It's been difficult. Sure. I mean, they are difficult games to watch, to cover. And I asked somebody about this, and I know ESPN has this League of Nations, or Nation League, whatever. I know ESPN has it, and I asked somebody the other day, explain this to me in layman's terms. Oh no, you're going to need a Wikipedia. I was like, okay, I'll take more time. But I do understand there are seeding issues around it, and so there is incentives for certain countries, or a lot of countries, to perform. And I think that may entice the managers or the teams to try and be a little bit tougher on the friendlies. What it won't do is it won't distract the player who, how can I say it, doesn't really give a toss about friendlies. Right. It won't detract from the fact that he's probably going to have a hamstring injury or a calf injury and not going to turn up. And you do get players like that. Sure. I would have been on the mindset myself to do it sometimes when I had, when I was playing at Celtic and we're going for a league championship, and we had a friendly against France in St Etienne prior to them winning the World Cup in '98. I'm like, and our manager was crying out for about 6 of us not to go and play. Yeah. It's difficult. It won't detract from that, but it might make these so-called friendlies a little bit more enjoyable to watch. Okay. Let's hope so. Yeah.
Last question, I promise on this one, is that in your playing career, you probably saw a change where international football was the highest level versus club football, and that has changed by far. Where club football is far greater than international football
because of the money. Primarily,
right.
In the Champions League,
But as a player, did you see that change, that transition?
No, but I can see it now, but I don't necessarily agree with it. I think there is an argument to have about what is a better standard, and that's fine. Yeah. But from a player's perspective, I don't know if somebody's ever asked, would somebody rather win this might be a stupid question that I'm sort of asking and then going to answer. Would you rather win a Champions League or a World Cup? I mean, for me, there's only one thing, and it's a World Cup. Mm-hmm. But the Champions League seems to have superseded a lot of stuff. Yeah. And I can, you look at we're going from World Cup to FA Cup. I was growing up a traditionalist. I loved the FA Cup. Yeah. I played in 3 semi-finals, played in the final, was left out in another final by Rude. But 3 semis in the mid-90s, it was the be-all and end-all. Semi-finals, I didn't like the semi-final at Wembley. But one semi-final at Villa Park, one semi-final at Highbury, where we beat Wimbledon, and I always remind Robbie Earle whenever I see him with that great Gianfranco Zola goal. Do you remember the little turn? But for me, the FA Cup was just now I sit as a UK guy living as a resident in the US, and I'm sitting folding my arms when the FA Cup's on, thinking, even I'm not getting this now. And Stevie Nicholls is saying, FA Cup, getting to an FA Cup final was the most fantastic thing. I know he had those times when they were winning the European Cup in the halcyon days, but getting to the FA Cup final for the supporter, even, Christopher. But even for the supporter now, you kind of think it's like, kind of half community shieldish about it.
Right.
And that's
interferes with the season.
Interferes with the top four. We've seen managers leaving players out because one's interfering with the other. And I think that's sad. Because I grew up watching it, I grew up playing in it, and I think sometimes international football has gone that way. But I tell you what, give me a Champions League run or give me a World Cup, I'd play in the World Cup every day. I mean, given my time playing in France in '98, I crammed everything in. I scored, dyed my hair blonde and got sent off. It was like, we're not going to be here long, so we might as well cram it in. And for any player not to get the opportunity to go to a World Cup, whether it's because he was injured or whether it's because he's playing for a country that's not good enough, be it like Ryan Giggs playing for Wales and all that, I think that's quite sad, because we've just seen how great a tournament it can be, and to be there and to experience it I wouldn't change it. As bad as we were, well, we weren't bad. We narrowly lost to Brazil.
Own goal. It was an own goal.
It was an own goal in the Brazil game. It was great to open that tournament up as we did then against the world champions. It's changed now. It's the host, as you know. So great experiences, and I wouldn't change it. But the Champions League's great, but it kind of makes me a little sad how everything else filtered away because of it. And how do we change that down the line, and will it change? I don't know.
Let me just, I said that was my final question. This is my final question now, and I guess our final question. So speaking of that, what do you make of Cristiano hijacking your show for 2 or 3 days during the World Cup knockout stages to engineer his move to Juve? Because again, it was this club superseding international thing, engineered by the master Ronaldo himself.
Well, listen, I don't think we'll ever see two players of the ilk of Messi and Ronaldo with, and I'm not a huge stats guy, but I don't mind stats. I just don't want to bury my analysis in a bath of stats. But when I look at their goals, and we put Ronaldo's up as a graphic the other day, and I kept having to look at games and goals. What one's games and what one's goals, going back over a 10-year period. It's like 50, 54. Is that goals? And I kept having to look at the top of the graphics, and I don't think we'll ever see that again from any player. The consistency from those two. But he just loves the limelight. Portugal were out. This big move was happening. The World Cup was on, and look, we all sat and lots of Juventus fans have come on social media and you guys haven't got a clue because you said it wasn't happening, and I said, well, hold on, Marcotti said it wasn't happening. But I know that, but Gab's great. Bloody Gab's great. Gab knows. This is the thing. This is what gets me, right? And and everybody has their opinion, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. Not an issue with that. And you can have journalists on, you can diversify. But I love the people that come on social media and say, well, Ralph Honigstein and Sid Lowe and Gab Marcotti, they just know more about the game than you guys. And I'm thinking, I don't remember when I was facing Roberto Carlos in the '98 World Cup thinking, I need to phone a journalist to find out how I need to prepare for this. So people got to understand, they bring one angle and we bring another, but it sometimes intertwines. But the Ronaldo thing was great because we all got it wrong, because we never thought it would happen, because he's postured before and he's usually got an arm round him and he's usually got more money. But fair play. Listen, Juventus won. It's going to be a great story, and it makes Serie A. It's like Steven Gerrard going to Rangers. It makes the profile of Scottish football better. It raises the profile of Serie A. Serie A has been a much better league in terms of a spectacle in recent years because the teams are playing more attractive football than previous years, and that's only going to enhance that.